The next topic we are going to start is of gamma radiation. So earlier on we have done alpha decay, beta decay. So the next topic is of gamma radiation. So gamma radiations, these are emitted from a nucleus. So similar to the alpha particle and the beta particle, gamma radiations, they are also emitted from the nucleus. So we will see how the gamma radiations they are emitted, what is the reason behind the emission of gamma photons, and what is the energy of the gamma photon which is emitted from a particular nucleus. So we will look into the various properties of gamma decay. The third type of radiation which could not be deflected in magnetic field. So these gamma radiations, they are neutral particles because they are made up of photons, and photons, it is uncharged, it does not have any charge. So therefore the photons, or you can say the gamma radiations, they do not show deflection in magnetic field. So they do not change their path when they are made to pass from the magnetic field, and they had very large penetrating power. So gamma radiations, they penetrate to a very large depth, or you can say to a very large length in the material. So therefore they have a very large penetrating power. So this gamma radiation, it was discovered in 1900 by P. Villard in France. These radiations are called as gamma rays. Now gamma rays, like the X-rays, so these are similar to that of X-rays. These are electromagnetic radiations, but there is a difference of gamma rays and that of X-rays. Now the spectrum that you are well aware of, the electromagnetic spectrum. So you have X-rays, first of all you have UV rays, then you have X-rays, then you have gamma rays. Now you are well aware of the electromagnetic spectrum. So in electromagnetic spectrum, you can clearly see the X-rays, they have larger wavelength as compared to the gamma rays which have shorter wavelength. So in this region, in this particular region, we will have short wavelength of X-rays. Here we will have the shorter X-rays because wavelength will increase in this direction. The wavelength of X-rays is large as compared to the wavelength of gamma rays. So in this particular region, in this particular division, we will have shorter wavelength of gamma rays and we will have larger wavelength of gamma rays. So we will have shorter wavelength of X-rays. We will have shorter wavelength of X-rays and larger wavelength of gamma rays. So it is very difficult to distinct, or you can say it is very difficult to differentiate between the shorter wavelength X-rays and larger wavelength gamma rays. So therefore it is difficult to distinguish between longest X-rays, that is which are in this region, and the shortest X-rays which are in this region. So it is quite difficult to distinguish between the gamma rays of larger wavelength and X-rays of shorter wavelength. Now what is the main difference between X-rays and gamma rays? The main difference lies in the origin, that is the source from which they are emitted. Now the X-rays, they result from the transitions between the electronic energy levels. So X-rays, the main source of X-rays is the transition between electronic energy levels. So let's say if you have a nucleus and electrons are revolving around the nucleus. So let's say in this manner. Now let's say if somehow this electron which is in the second shell, let's say this gets removed and a vacancy will be left behind. So let's say if due to any circumstance this electron which was present, it gets removed from the orbit. So therefore there will be a vacancy, there will be a hole which will be left behind. Then the electron from the outer orbit, it will possibly go to the vacancy which is made. So this electron which is present in the outer orbit, it will move to the lower orbit. So it will move to the lower orbit and it will fill this vacancy. And during this transition, during the transition of the electron from the higher to the lower energy level, photons are emitted of particular energy, and these photons which are emitted, they lie in the X-ray region. So therefore X-rays, they result from transitions between the electronic energy levels, whereas the gamma rays, they result from the transitions between the nuclear energy levels. So this is the main difference between X-ray and gamma ray. Now X-rays, they are emitted due to the transitions between electronic energy levels. So when an electron from a higher orbit, it goes to the lower orbit, X-rays are emitted. But the gamma rays are emitted when a nucleus, it goes from its higher energy level to lower energy level. So nucleus, it has various states. So this we have already done in the case of shell model, that there are various shells which are present inside the nucleus, and nucleus, it can go to the excited state as well. So when the nucleus from its excited state, it goes to the ground state, it emits photons. So those photons, they lie in the gamma region. So that is the origin of gamma rays. Now when a nucleus is in an excited state, the nucleus eventually goes to the ground state by emission of gamma photon. Let EI be the energy of an excited state of a nucleus. So we are just talking about a nucleus. Let EI be the energy of an excited state of a nucleus. So let's say this is the state of the nucleus and this is the excited state of the nucleus. So this is the initial energy state of the nucleus. Now we have a ground state energy of the nucleus. So let's say that is represented by EF. Now when a nucleus, it is in this upper energy state, in the excited energy level, then after some time this nucleus, it goes to the lower energy level. It makes a transition to the lower energy level, EF, and hence the energy is released from the nucleus in the form of gamma rays, and energy of this gamma ray will be almost equal to EI minus EF. So the difference in the energy is taken by the gamma photon. So the release of energy delta E is equal to EI minus EF. Now this energy delta E, the difference in the energy of the two levels, which is EI minus EF, now this energy, it can go in the form of, it can be released in the form of gamma rays. So the first way in which this energy can be released is the gamma ray emission. The second one is the internal conversion, and we will see what is internal conversion, and the last one is the internal pair production. So there are three ways in which this difference in energy can be released. First is the gamma ray emission, second is the internal conversion, and third is the internal pair production. Now the last process of internal pair production that we had written, now it occurs much less frequently. It is not seen more often. It is very less frequent than the other two emissions, that is the gamma ray emission and the internal conversion. So internal pair production, it occurs much less frequently than the others. Now to create an electron-positron pair. Now what is internal pair production? Now in internal pair production, gamma ray which is released, it gets converted into an electron and a positron. So a pair of electron and positron is produced, and that is called as internal pair production. Now to create an internal pair production, electron-positron pair, the energy delta E between this energy difference between the two energy states of the nucleus, it must be greater than or equal to 1.02 mega electron volt. So this is the main condition for internal pair production to occur, that delta E energy. So there are two nuclear states. The initial one is EI and the final nuclear state is EF. So when the nucleus, it goes to the ground state by the emission of gamma ray, so if the energy of this gamma ray is greater than 1.02 mega electron volt, only then there is a chance that this gamma ray, it will get converted into an electron and positron. So only when the energy of the gamma ray is greater than or equal to 1.02 mega electron volt, only then this gamma ray can convert itself into an electron and a positron. Now the other two processes, that is the gamma emission and the internal conversion, they are much more frequent. Now first is the gamma ray emission. So there is excited energy level of the nucleus, which is written by EI, and we have lower energy state of the nucleus, which is EF. So when the nucleus from the higher state it goes to the ground state or the lower excited state, it will emit photons whose energy will be h nu, and this energy h nu will be equal to delta E, which is nothing but difference in the two energy levels, EI minus EF. So from here, what is nu? Nu is nothing but the frequency of the gamma photon which is emitted, and h nu is the energy which is taken by the gamma photon. Now every nucleus, it has a spin. So let's spin off the initial state of the nucleus. So when the nucleus was in this state, let's say the spin of the nucleus is given by I small I vector. So capital I represents the spin of a nucleus. Now we are talking about the spin of the nucleus when it is in this excited state. So let's say in that case the spin of the nucleus was I vector. And when the nucleus it goes to the final state, that is in the ground state, let's say its spin becomes IF vector. So there will be a difference in the spins of the nucleus in the two energy levels. Now if the spin of the nucleus is II vector in the excited state and it is IF vector in the lower state. So when the nucleus it transits from the upper state to the lower state. So when the nucleus it goes from the upper state to the lower state, that is it is changing its spin also. It is changing its energy as well as it is changing its spin. So spin will also change and the energy will also change. So the change in energy is given to the photon and change in the spin will also be given to the photon. The change in energy, the difference in energy is given to the photon and the change in the spin will also be given to the photon in the form of angular momentum. So this spin of the nucleus is nothing but the total angular momentum of the nucleus. The spin of a nucleus, it represents the total angular momentum of a nucleus. So when the total angular momentum of a nucleus it changes from II vector to IF vector, so the difference in the change in the spin, it will be given to the photon in the form of its angular momentum. So angular momentum which will be carried by the gamma photon, it will be nothing but the change in the spins of the nucleus. So that angular momentum which is carried by the gamma photon, it is given by L vector. So h nu is the energy of the gamma photon and L vector is the angular momentum which is taken by the gamma photon, and that will be the change in the spins, that is II vector minus IF vector. And keep in mind these are vectors. These are not just the simple subtraction, these are in the vector form. So let's say that is represented by delta I vector. The change in the spin is given by delta I vector. Now this is in vector form. So how do we do the vector addition or the vector subtraction? So if any vector, let's say here in this case we have L vector, it is equal to II vector minus IF vector. So what will be the magnitude of this L? What will be the value of the magnitude of this vector? That will lie between two numbers, and those two numbers will be II minus IF to II plus IF. So this is the range of the values which can be taken by this capital L. So when capital L is equal to, L vector is equal to II vector minus IF vector, so what will be the magnitude of L? So what values of L will be taken, that will lie between I vector minus IF vector with its mod. So we will take only the positive values, and the largest value will be II plus IF. So all the values between, all the integral values between these two limits will be taken, can be taken by capital L. So now we have the following selection rules for gamma decay. So what are the selection rules? First is the gamma photon must carry away at least 1 unit of angular momentum. The gamma photon, it must carry away, that is it must carry at least 1 unit of angular momentum. So at least capital L should be equal to 1. It can be equal to 2, it can be equal to 3, that is it cannot be equal to 0. So gamma photon, it must carry away at least 1 unit of angular momentum. And from where does this rule comes? It comes from the property of the photon. The photon, it has spin equal to 1. Spin of photon is equal to 1, and at least this much amount of spin must be taken by the photon. So spin, it can never be equal to 0. Therefore the gamma photon, it must carry away at least 1 unit of angular momentum. So delta I, it can never be equal to 0. So delta is nothing but capital L. So capital L, which is the angular momentum taken by the gamma photon, which is carried away by the gamma photon, that will never be equal to 0. And second one is the parity is always conserved in gamma decay, and we will have a look how parity is conserved in gamma decay. Now we are going to look at an important topic in gamma radiations, which is the multipolarity in gamma transitions. Now according to the value of capital L, according to the capital L value which is taken by the gamma photon, according to this L value we will define the transitions in different manner. So gamma transitions, they are classified into dipole transition, quadrupole transition, octupole transition. So when capital L, it is equal to 1, when the capital L, which is the angular momentum taken by the gamma photon, it is equal to 1, then that type of gamma transition is called as dipole transition. And if capital L is equal to 2, it is called as quadrupole transition. And if capital L is equal to 3, it is called as octupole transition, and so on. So these are the multiple order of gamma transition. Now according to the value of capital L vector with its magnitude taken away by the gamma photon, such type of transitions are defined. So this is for capital L is equal to 1, this is for capital L is equal to 2, and this one is for capital L is equal to 3, and so on. We will have higher order transitions. Now the next point is that for any order, for any dipole, quadrupole, octupole, for any order, the transitions can be either electric or it can be magnetic. So you have to remember this point, that the transition, it can be either electric or it can be magnetic. So it can be electric dipole or it can be magnetic dipole. It can be electric quadrupole or it can be magnetic quadrupole, and so on. It can be electric octupole or it can be magnetic octupole. So on we can have the transitions. So for any order, that is for any dipole, quadrupole, octupole, for any order the transitions can be either electric or magnetic type, and this is called as nature of the multipole transition. So these are the multiple order of transitions, and this is the nature of the multiple transition, that is if it is electric or it is magnetic. Now these are some of the properties. Now multiple order of a transition. Multiple order of a transition is equal to 2 power L. So this multiple order, that is dipole, quadrupole, octupole, this is defined by 2 power L number. So when capital L is equal to 1, so when you will put capital L is equal to 1, so when you will put capital L is equal to 1, you will get 2 power 1, that will be equal to 2. So that is nothing but dipole. So 2 represents dipole. Then if you have capital L is equal to 2, you will have 2 power 2, that is 4, and that will be quadrupole. Then if you have capital L is equal to 3, you will get 2 power 3, that is 8, which is octupole. So this is how we define multiple order of a transition, and it is defined by 2 power L. So capital L, in actual capital L, it tells us what type of multiple order is the gamma transition, and 2 power L will give us the exact multiple order. So whether it is dipole, quadrupole, octupole. Now if L is equal to 1, then multiple order is 2, which is dipole, and if L is equal to 2, then multiple order is 4, which is quadrupole, and so on. Now this multiple order, as we have seen this order, that whether the transition is dipole, quadrupole, octupole, this order it is decided by capital L. But now we will see the type of multiple order, how this type of multiple order, whether it is electric or it is magnetic, how this nature of multiple transition is decided. So whether it is electric or it is magnetic. So this is decided by the parity change. So here will come the parity. We will use the concept of parity, that parity in gamma emission is conserved. So using this parity property, we will find the nature of the multiple transition, whether it is electric dipole or it is magnetic dipole. Similarly, whether it is electric quadrupole or it is magnetic quadrupole. So this is decided by the parity change for the nucleus. Now pi I, it represents the parity of the initial state of the nucleus. So the nucleus, it had initial state which was represented by EI, and it had spin II vector. So let's say it has a parity pi I. So there are 3 quantities which we have defined till now for a particular level. So it is energy, spin, and parity of the level. Similarly, for the lower level, we will have final energy state, then we will have spin of the final energy state, then the parity of that state. Let's say that is pi f. So pi I, it is the parity of the initial state of the nucleus, and pi f is the parity of the final state of the nucleus. Now when the nucleus, it goes from the excited to the lower state, it will emit photon. So that photon will get energy which is equal to EI minus EF, and it will get angular momentum L, whose values will be given by the formula that we had written on the previous page, that L will lie between 2 values. So L will lie between II plus IF, and it will be greater than or equal to II minus IF. So this is how capital L is decided. Then what is the parity of this photon which is emitted? So what is the parity of the photon? The parity of the photon, the formula of the parity of the photon will be equal to pi I into pi f. So we will multiply the parities of the 2 states, that will give us the parity which is taken by the photon. So multiplication of the parities of the 2 states will give us the parity of the emitted radiation. So let's say over here we have 2 energy states. So this is the excited energy level, this is the ground state energy level, and spin of the nucleus is 2. In this case the spin of the nucleus is 1. The parity is minus 1, here the parity is plus 1. So what will be the angular momentum which will be taken by the photon? So that will lie between, so as we have seen, that will lie between II minus IF and II plus IF. So in this case, what is II minus IF? So that is 2 minus 1, which is 1. So L will lie between 2 minus 1, which is 1, and it will be less than or equal to 2 plus 1, that is 3. So L will take values 1, 2, 3. So these 3 values are possible. So the photon, it can take any of these values. Now what is the parity of the photon? So that will be just the multiplication of the parities. So here it is -1 and here it is +1. So that will be -1 into +1, which will be equal to -1. So parity of the photon will be odd. So it is negative, it is -1, so which means the parity of the photon is odd. So far we had seen that gamma transitions, they are classified as electric 2 power L pole transition, or it can be magnetic 2 power L pole transition. So if L is equal to 1, we will have electric dipole transition and we will have magnetic dipole transition. When L is equal to 2, you will get 2 power 2, which is 4, that is electric quadrupole transition or magnetic quadrupole transition. So in these two ways we can classify the gamma transitions. Now this dipole, quadrupole, octopole, this is decided by the value of capital L. But how do we define if it is electric or it is magnetic? So that is decided by the parity which is taken away by the photon. So the parity of the photon will decide if it is magnetic or if it is electric. So you have to remember a rule that if the parity of the photon, it comes out to be -1 power L. So photon parity of the photon is equal to -1 power L for electric, and for magnetic the parity of the photon is -1 power L plus 1. So you have to remember these two formulas, that for electric transition, for electric, the parity of the photon is -1 power L, and for the case of magnetic, the parity of the photon must be -1. It must follow this rule that it must be equal to -1 power L plus 1. So how do we find? So taking an example, we will see how do we find the type of transition, or you can say the type of radiation which is emitted, whether it is electric 2 power L pole transition or it is magnetic 2 power L pole radiation. So we are taking an example that there is a nucleus which is in the excited state and its spin is 2 with parity -1, and we have the lower excited state which has spin equal to 1 and its parity is +1. So first of all, what is the angular momentum taken by the photon? So that will lie between 2 plus 1 and it will be greater than or equal to 2 minus 1. So what will be the values of L? It will be 1, 2 and 3. So these three values of L are possible. So that is we can have dipole, we can have quadrupole and we can have octopole. So 2 power 1 is 2, that is dipole, then 2 power 2 is 4, which is quadrupole, then 2 power 3 is 8, which is octopole. So these three types of multipoles are possible. Now what is the parity of the photon? Parity of the photon will be simply multiplication of the parity. So -1 into +1, that will be equal to -1. So parity of the photon, it must be equal to -1. So these are the three values of capital L that are possible for the case of a photon. Now let's say when capital L is equal to 1. When capital L is equal to 1, so for capital L is equal to 1, so keep in mind the parity of the photon, it must be equal to -1. So you have to keep in mind this thing. According to the diagram, the parity of the photon should be equal to -1. Now when capital L is equal to 1, so it can be either electric or it can be magnetic. So it can be either electric quadrupole, it can be the electric dipole. So L is equal to 1 means it is dipole. So it can be either electric or it can be magnetic dipole. So we have to see, we have to check whether it is electric or it is magnetic. So for that we have to use this formula, that for electric the parity of the photon is equal to -1 power L, and for magnetic parity is equal to -1 power L plus 1. Now what is capital L, which is taken over here, which is 1. So when you will put -1 power 1, it will be equal to -1, and when you will put L is equal to 1, it will be equal to +1 in this case. So parity as we have said, parity of the photon must be equal to -1. So that is only in this case. So parity is equal to -1 for the case of electric dipole. So the first possible transition is the electric dipole. So electric dipole transition is possible. Second is capital L is equal to 2, which is also possible. Capital L is equal to 2 is also possible. Now this means it is quadrupole transition. So it can also be either electric or it can be magnetic. So for electric, parity is -1 power L, as we have seen over here, and for magnetic, parity is -1 power L plus 1. Now you will put this value of capital L over here. So parity will be -1 power 2, it will be plus 1, and here it will be -1. So magnetic quadrupole will be possible. So the second type of transition that is possible is magnetic quadrupole. And last value of capital L which is possible is 3. So capital L is equal to 3, which means it is octopole transition. So this can also be either electric or it can be magnetic. So you will have parity is equal to -1 power L, and in case of magnetic you have -1 power L plus 1. So in the first case, -1 power 3. So you will get -1 power 3, that will be -1, and in this case you will get plus 1. So electric octopole transition is also possible. So for this particular case, for this particular example, electric dipole is possible, magnetic dipole is not possible. Electric quadrupole is not possible, but magnetic quadrupole is possible. Then electric octopole is possible, but magnetic octopole is forbidden. So that transition will not occur. So only these 3 types of transitions, gamma transitions, will occur for this particular case. So for a particular case, first of all you have to find the values of L which are possible, and then you will see what should be the parity of the photon. So according to these rules, then you will see what type of radiation will be possible.